Peace, family. So I'm back with another one. Today what I want to do is I wanted to talk to my chosen ones about how you will have to pay extra close attention to how people are reacting and responding when they're in an emotional state. You know what I'm saying? That will always show you a lot as into where someone stands and a lot about someone's character. You know what I'm saying? And a lot of us have to put ourselves in situations or be involved with beings for a certain amount of period of time before we actually encounter an emotional state or a situation to where, you know, a decision or a choice has to be made. And in these times, while it's happening, and how these other beings around you or in your space are processing will show you where they stand spiritually. I don't care what they are doing for you in the physical realm. You know, clearly we are in a day and age where everything is overly used. You know, everything is overly excessive and overly accessed. So just being aware that you have to see how certain beings interact and engage and how their responses are when you're in situations. So like for most beings, like we don't really have those situations that we are really aware of and start discussing outwardly until we get to like high school and it's like relationship shit, you know what I'm saying? Where it's, oh, somebody cheated and now you're trying to figure out how to respond to a situation, or like somebody done pulled up on you and now you're figuring out how you're supposed to respond and react to the situation. You know what I mean? But when you have situations with other beings, you know, I guess the best way, because I'm trying to work around using certain examples, but the way I'm set up, I really don't have a choice. You know, my playbook is set up that way. I've faced several situations to where certain beings was not speaking up for me spiritually or behind the scenes. And I'm just using me as an example. We all been in these situations where people was not speaking up for us in certain situations. And how we would know is because the fruits would always show, and then obviously a lot of us already understand, or the few of us that's in this space understand that it's a lot of witchy motherfuckers out here. So you're gonna run into some of that chaos and confusion. But engaging with some of these beings, you can always tell how their friends or peers have been interpreted, or what kind of picture was painted about you by how they engage or they feel towards you, you know? And when you have flying monkeys out here, and anybody that knows the narcissistic language already understands, you know, they are just the ones that run around and do the dirty work for, or some of the dirty work for the narcos, you know what I'm saying? But they will have those flying monkeys believing in things and doing things for them. And one way you will know is that they always will have a bad image or a shitty picture painted of you, you know? And that wouldn't be the case if somebody was being solid or they were speaking up for you behind the scenes, you know? And we all have numerous of situations where we could think of where somebody was, you know, talking one way about us and it reflected due to the other beings that was around, because the information made its way back around to us. And it's just crazy how life works, because people give a lot of excuses, but then there's always signs there. So as I had went through some of those situations myself, more recently, a buddy of mine, associate of mine, you know, that I do game with, I haven't gamed with him for about probably like a couple days or a week or so, but he had got back on recently. And I had already discussed on one of my other episodes on how I had a falling out with, wasn't really a falling out, just some weird witchy energy. Digitally, I just delete, you know. So, but he was still associated, my man's, that who I was playing with recently still associated with the other group of fellas, which, you know, is cool. No beef in between there. He has, you know, everybody has their own reasons, blah, 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 whatever. Long story short, he was in the party with us first, with me and a couple of my other buddies, and he decided, because one of the other guys that he is really close with stayed in the neighborhood, we was playing 2K, stayed in the neighborhood, he was like, yo, I'm not gonna go over to the rec where we could do 5-on-5, I'm gonna stay in the neighborhood where we can do 3-on-3, that way he can play with the other dude, you know what I'm saying? And, you know, I ain't got no problems with the other dude, you know what I'm saying? He chill, or whatever. His brother is the one that had the situation with, or whatever. And we all stayed in the neighborhood. We all stayed in the neighborhood for my mans who said, yo, we gonna stay over here because his other peoples just got on. He still fuck with them. So we like, cool, it's not a big deal. But my associate went through this whole process of telling us how he fucks with him and speaking good of him and of light of him, right? And just it wasn't like no ass kissing kind of thing. It was just more so like, you know, he really fuck with dude. So after we played a game in the neighborhood, a couple other guys from that group had got on and they left the neighborhood right away behind him. Didn't send him no invite, no friend request, no party invite, no none of that shit. So then he was just stuck in a space of where it was like, oh shit, I was just standing up and defending this nigga spiritually and giving him all this energy behind closed doors. He don't know that I'm speaking up for him, but I am speaking up for him and on behalf of him, and I am putting good energy behind how I'm speaking of him. But then as soon as the match is over, he leaves the neighborhood, don't even send my peoples the friend to follow or the game invite, whatever. And it just let my people's like, damn, yo, I'm speaking up for you. And it just shows that you don't fuck with me on that same level, because you're just gonna peel out and switch neighborhoods when clearly you don't know that I just said I'm staying in this neighborhood and all the other guys decided to stay in this neighborhood because of me. That's what, not because of me, but as the other being I'm speaking of, as of me. And now this one slides out the picture. It goes a long way on how you speak and you carry yourself and how you direct your energy towards others that you care about when you not around them, because it always reflects back and the energy always comes back around. That's why I say you always have to see how beings are when they're in an emotional state or a situation where the energy is really in motion and they have to make decisions. You know what I'm saying? Like, that was something that my associate, he didn't even have to say anything about, oh, why he want to stay over in the neighborhood or blah, 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 or all this other shit, or say any of that shit, you know what I'm saying? But he did, because that's just the kind of spirited being that he is. But the other motherfucker who he was on with, you know what I'm saying, they just peeled the fuck out on him, you know what I'm saying? So it was like, damn, like, being's energy is always going to reflect outwardly, so try not to be too hooked on what they can falsely or fake put out there to you. You know, something that's not authentic, like how they can do things just robotically. Once you can imagine a robot and how it just operates and does things without any feeling, then you can imagine how the physical world, you can almost picture it with other beings, and then removing that feeling disconnect once you make it a robotic gesture. You know what I'm saying? A lot of these beings is always going to show you. I mean, I went through several situations between my being and the person that I was dealing with prior, with, you know, all this shit that from all the other peers and friends, that each one, every time you deal with one of those beings, they're always going to have large, vast numbers of different groups of friends and peers all over the place. And then all of them are going to have the same perception of you because of the picture that they paint for them. You know? So just being aware that, like, when these things are happening and people are showing you where you stand, like, don't take it personal. Just know that it's a war going on. Like, you don't have to go back in their space and beat the dog shit out of them or fight them to the end of the world. Like, you just know that it's a war. You keep your defenses strong. You keep your armor up, your protection out. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, what I think of is when my daughter used to be real little, like she about to be 7 already next week. But when she was small, she had a tendency of just randomly, like 1 or 2, 3 years old, just randomly sitting beside me, and then just all of a sudden want to reach over and slap me or scratch me or hit me or something. And when she do that, and assuming that I'm not aware, right? My spirit naturally moves out the way. That makes my body move. She falls or does something to herself. Or when she goes to hit me, she hit me the wrong way, so then she ends up hurting herself. These are like, it's a small example to a big picture. You know what I mean? Like, even with like some of my co-hosts or like other people that I done got in to do some work and projects with, like, and you can search shit on business. Like, you already know, like, you never know how a being really is going to manage if you're not good at reading energy when it gets to those kind of situations. But what happens is, once you've been walking this life for a while, you kind of got to grasp and a gist of it. You start to realize most of us all are kind of similar to a certain degree, and that there's only 2 playbooks. This playbook, the great team, and then you have this playbook. Shit we just want to put downward. You know what I'm saying? Like, so just be aware if you are struggling with reading energies and signs. Just be mindful of how these beings are reacting when it's a situation happening. You know what I'm saying? Whether you got triangulated in a situation with your parents, or whether your siblings triangulated you in a situation. We got plenty of friends and spouses that triangulate us in situations. You know what I'm saying? So any of these things is going to be game time. When that shit starts happening, that's game time. Your ass is on the field. So now it's time to start being alert, paying attention to everything that is going on around you and the details. How this motherfucker is responding, talking, engaging, moving, acting, all of the above. Everything that you're doing and have going on, and then the environment and the setting that it's happening in. Take everything into account. You know what I'm saying? Everything. Because a lot of us we done been through this shit already so many times that, like, if you could prevent somebody from having to go through it as many times, then do it. Like, my daughter ain't never have to touch the hot stove because she could feel the temperature, and then she already know daddy's done touched it. So with that being said, she don't have to run around with her hands on fire thinking, oh, well, I gotta touch it. We learn from others. You know, we don't have to put ourselves in every situation to learn, you know. So tapping everything down below, you know what I'm saying? I ain't want to run it up too long. Peace and love to the kings and queens.